What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you are good. It is currently about 6:30 in the morning. At the minute, my routine, alarm goes off at 5 in the morning. I get up and I just go out for an hour with Blue. Means I can get a load of steps in before I even start my day. He gets a good walk and I'm set up pretty well. So you'll have just seen me do my check-in pictures this morning for my own coach, see where we're at, that time of the week again. Now, we are currently sitting about 12 weeks into this diet and we're about 11 kilos down, just over 11 kilos. So we've made some pretty good progress so far. But the thing that's really struck me so far with this whole process is just how straightforward and almost easy this diet has been. Hunger has been minimal, energy's been high. I've not felt like I've had to be going out and find time to do steps or do extra cardio and everything like that. Even though I have been doing those things, I've been finding ways of just working it into my daily routine, so it feels pretty straightforward. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Top 10 tips to make fat loss easy, or maybe I'll think of something a little bit catchier than that when I actually come to post this onto YouTube to get the old hook out there. But that's what we're going to go through. So I'm going to take you through my 10 tips whilst I'm going through my day. So before we jump into it, guys, as ever, if you want to give me a sense of validation that I'm not wasting my time making all these videos, then like the video and just hit the subscribe button on the channel. With that being said, I'm going to go make my breakfast and then we will meet back to go through 10 kilos of fat loss made easy. Let's do it. Okay, so tip number one, makes sense to start with the tip that I think is going to make the biggest difference to your ability to drop body weight, stick to a diet much easier, and that is food volume. Because essentially the hardest part of any diet is hunger, right? You get hungry, that's when you want to snack, that's when you want to go off plan, that's when you're more tempted. So food volume is going to be hugely important to minimizing hunger and leaving you feeling full, to the point where I have clients consistently tell me when they're dieting that they're struggling to get enough food in because they're using these food volume tips. So let's go through these. So if you're not currently doing it, one of the most important things you can do when you're looking at your calorie budget for the day when you're dieting is asking yourself how you can get the most food out of the least amount of calories possible. Because I could put two plates in front of you. They could both have 500 calories on that plate. And one of those plates could have a chocolate bar. And the other one could literally be stacked over the edge with protein and with vegetables. Out of those two, for the same 500 calories, which do you think is going to fill you up more? Gonna be the protein and the vegetables. And that's not to say that you only have protein and vegetables, but you need to start thinking about how much food volume you can get in. So here's a few things that might help. So with each main meal that you're having, you want to be making sure that you are stacking those meals out with vegetables. So at least 2 to 3 handfuls of different colored veg with each meal. So stuff like lettuce, mushrooms, you can go tomatoes, peppers, onions, bean sprouts, broccoli, whatever it is, stack those meals out with loads and loads of veg. You're not only going to get loads of micronutrients that's going to help you feel better, but it's also going to massively reduce hunger between meals as well. Make use of vegetables. Now, outside of your main meals, when you are starting to get a bit peckish, this is where you might want to start being a little bit more clever about what you're having. Because yes, you could work in a bit of chocolate to your calorie targets. Yes, you could work in a little snack that you love. But if you're only getting a really small stack for a ton of calories, it's going to make life so much harder to stick into your targets in the long run. So some of the things that I use on a daily basis to minimize my hunger and maximize the amount of food I'm taking in for lower calories are things like, first and foremost, Snacker Jack rice cakes. Doesn't have to be Snacker Jacks, they're just the ones I get. These are salt and vinegar. And you can get like caramel ones, chocolate ones as well. And 3 of 4 of these, which are gonna fill a good hole, they're only gonna be about 120 to 160 calories. So they're really low in calories and well worth trying. Another option, one of my favorites, the proper corn sweet and salty popcorn. Again, as a really nice treat, especially if you've got a little bit of a sweet tooth, this is fantastic. 20 grams of this literally fills a bowl like this. And again, you're getting very little calories from that, around 150 calories just from that one bowl of food. Then when it comes more towards carbohydrate replacements with meals, you might want to look at stuff like rice noodles, or you might want to look at stuff like bagel thins. Rice noodles are much lower in calories than stuff like pasta that is going to be quite high in fats. Stuff like egg noodles, which again is higher in fats. Rice noodles, much lower in calories, still got a decent amount of carbohydrates in them, but massively fill your plate when you're eating as well. Swap out normal breads that you're having and swap in bagel thins, because again, less calories, there's a bit more protein in bagel, so it helps you hit that target as well. Really useful to use. And on an evening, what I'll do is a snack before bed. So for 100 grams of this, you've got 0.4 grams of fat, so no fat pretty much. You've got 5 grams of carbs, and you've got 8.3 grams of protein. So if you struggle to hit your protein targets, a couple of 100 grams of this on the night before bed, some frozen fruit, super useful and massively fills you up. And then finally, one of the tricks I use between meals if I notice my hunger starts to go up are these. One of these a day at most. Now, I'm not recommending these from a health point of view. I'm not saying you should be having them all the time or relying on them, but if you do find that you're a little bit hungry between meals, these can be really, really useful because of the fizziness of them and because of the sweetness in them. They'll satisfy a bit of a sweet tooth if you've got that, but because of the fizziness and the fact that they will bloat you a little bit, they're going to leave you feeling full. So it might just be all that you need between meals. Now, the other thing worth of mention when it comes to this, minimizing hunger with food volume, is avoiding liquid calories. So if you normally go for a vanilla latte for your normal coffee order, start ordering a skinny latte with sugar-free syrup, or switch to a black coffee with sugar-free syrup. Avoid taking in calories that just are not going to fill you up. That includes smoothies, and that also includes cooking with oil. Swap it for Fry Light, work these little snacks in, and you will find that your hunger is so much less and sticking to your diet becomes so much easier. Okay, tip number 2 is fasting. Now, we're not talking about intermittent fasting and saying that there is anything inherently better about it when it comes to fat loss. Intermittent fasting does not magically improve fat loss, but when it can be useful is when your food starts to get a little bit lower. So what I'll advise my clients to do sometimes, and what I will do if I know I'm out for the day, if I know that I'm going to be walking around and I'm not going to have the same access to food and my normal cooking facilities, is I will use a fasting method to push my first meal back as late as I can possibly push it. Now, the benefits of doing this are that, one, you condense your eating window down into a smaller window so that you're not spreading your food out across the day quite as much, and you can make those meals a little bit bigger when you're having them, leaving you a little bit fuller. And also, two, what I've personally found and what a lot of my clients have found is that when you push your first meal back after a couple of times of getting used to it, the hunger signaling that you'll experience is much, much less. So I generally will notice that I feel hungrier after I've started eating. So having meals is actually a bit of a trigger for hunger signaling through the rest of the day. So sometimes finding that if I push my breakfast back by 2-3 hours in the morning, I actually reduce the amount of hunger that I'm feeling through that day, and it makes life a little bit easier. So this is going to be super, super useful. And you can also use this as well if you know you are going out for a meal in the evening, you're going to meet a friend for a couple of drinks. You can essentially skip that first meal of the day, save those calories and bank those calories, and push them towards the back end of the day to give you a little bit more wiggle room to play with when you get to that event in the evening. And remember, you don't need to use it straight from the off when you're on plenty of food. You can space it out really, really easily, but as food starts to drop and get lower and lower, this can be something that is useful, and it's definitely something that I will be using more and more as my diet continues and as I get leaner and leaner on less and less food. So that's tip number 2. And tip number 3, you have to understand why you're doing this in the first place. You have to spend a little bit of time digging into why losing some body fat, why trying to improve your physique, your body composition is important to you, because it needs to go a little bit deeper than I just want to lose a few pounds or I just want to drop a jean size. Because when the diet gets tough, and it will get tough at some point if you stick with it for long enough, when your food is lower, when your expenditure is a little bit higher, when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're a little bit irritable, that is when you're gonna need to be able to fall back on the reason why you're doing this. Now, it could be something deep embedded. It could be that you've never really been in shape. Maybe you've always identified as being the bigger friend in the friendship group and you want to change that. Maybe you've got kids and you're wanting to get yourself into a healthier, better position, not only to see them grow up and be around for longer, but also to set an example to them. Whatever it is, it's independent to you, but spend a little bit of time diving into why this goal even matters. Because if you don't know why this goal matters to you, when it gets difficult, you won't stick to it and you'll fall off and you'll go back to where you started. So understanding your why is super, super important if you want to be able to stick to the plan long term and get the result that you say you always wanted to get. So number 3, understand your why. Now, I'm meeting up with Chris for a session over at Ultraflex. So we're going to try and film a little bit of that. But first, I'm going to get a little bit of work boxed off, and then we're going to drive across and I'm going to give you tip number 4 on the way there. Okay, so tip number 4, we've just pulled up outside of the gym, so I'm about to go in, meet Chris. We're going to train a little bit of upper body, which is my final upper workout of this week. So my split at the minute, push, pull, upper body, legs. Before we go in, I wanted to jump onto tip number 4, one of my personal favorites. Caffeine. Not actually my favourite flavour. I tried this flavour of Monster this morning, and to be honest with you, I wish I hadn't bothered. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the White Monster, and it's definitely not the Lewis Hamilton one. I think those two are definitely the top 2 flavours of Monsters. And I do try to avoid having these, to be honest with you, around the training window, just because of the fizziness of them. However, the gym that I'm meeting Chris at today is about a half-hour drive from home, so I wanted something to sip on with a bit of caffeine whilst I came over, and it's quite hot today, so I didn't really want a coffee. So caffeine, I have spoken about this in another video. So I did my full Substack video, which I'll drop the card to somewhere around here. So if you want loads of detail on caffeine, why it's useful, why we might use it, go and watch that video. But all I'll say for now is when we are dieting and when energy is low and we're going into the gym and we're wanting to be able to put a good performance in at the gym, we're wanting a good workout, caffeine can be really, really useful to give us a little bit of extra focus, a little bit of an extra kick. And obviously we know as well, it can reduce how fatiguing a session feels. So you want to take caffeine in at least 20 to 30 minutes before you head into the gym so that you're giving it time to get into your system. If you're walking into the gym, drinking whatever it is that you're having or taking your pre-workout with caffeine in, it's going to be 20 minutes into your workout before you even notice a kick or anything like that. So super, super useful. Remember, when we are dieting as well, we definitely want to make sure, at any time really, but even more so when you're dieting, that you're not having any caffeine after 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Because of caffeine's half-life, because of how long it stays in your system, if you're having this late into the afternoon, early evening, before you go to bed, it's going to massively affect your sleep. It's going to reduce your sleep quality, which then obviously is going to affect your ability to recover overnight, repair muscle tissue. It's going to affect your energy the next day, which is going to have a knock-on effect to hunger and everything like that. So make sure whatever caffeine you have before 2 p.m. and that you're only really using it around that workout window if you need it. It can also be a good idea if you find that caffeine just isn't having an effect on you anymore to have a bit of time off. So there's a lot of research backing up that having a bit of time off of caffeine, 2 to 3 weeks, actually helps reduce the amount of caffeine metabolites in your blood, so that when you then start taking caffeine back in again, your body's not quite as efficient at breaking it down, which gives caffeine more chance to take effect. So if you're noticing that your caffeine doesn't quite hit the same as it used to, have a couple of weeks off and then reintroduce it slowly at smaller dosages, and you'll probably notice a bit of a difference. So tip number 4, caffeine. We are going to head into the gym for an upper body session.
Sounds good.
so you can see that I'm an absolute sweaty mess right now, but that is upper done. That's cardio done on the Stairmaster, which we'll talk about in a minute. But tip number 5, before I leave the gym, because we're still sat in the gym, one of the best things that you can do when it comes to your training during a diet is have someone to train with. So have a friend, a mate, gym buddy, whatever, because when your food is low and when you're hungry, when you're tired, when energy's down, when strength's not progressing like it was when you were eating more food, motivation probably isn't going to be quite as high. So in that situation, having someone else there to push you to get a few extra reps out, to help spot you, to maintain your strength as much as you possibly can, is going to make a big difference to the amount of effort and intensity you can put into your workouts, and then ultimately the amount of muscle you either maintain or still build through that dieting phase. Not only that, but taking pictures after you've trained, bit of a post-gym pump, can feel a bit cringy, but seeing your physique after you've trained, after you've got a bit of a pump on, can massively fill you with motivation moving forwards for seeing your physique in its best possible light. So all those muscles that you're trying to build, all those muscles that you're trying to carve out when you're dieting, they're going to look their absolute best after you've trained them. So it makes sense to get some pictures after you've trained, so you can really see where the differences are coming in, where you're getting leaner, what muscles are improving, and everything like that. So tip number 5, get a training partner and take some pictures after you train to help boost your motivation to keep going through the diet. Now, I'm going to leave, go get in the car and head home for a shower. So that is 5 tips down out of 10. Now, tip number 6, one thing that you'll have noticed was the cardio that I did after my training was a Stairmaster. Nothing special about that, it just burns calories quite quickly. But what I don't do for cardio, and what tip number 6 is to avoid HIIT training. Now, I'm not hating on HIIT training for the sake of HIIT training. If you enjoy doing HIIT training, of course you can do HIIT training. But what you have to realize is that, again, when you're dieting, when you're trying to drop body fat, you're in an environment, you're in a situation where energy is going to be a bit lower, hunger is going to be a bit higher, recovery is going to be a bit slower, cravings are going to be a bit higher. If you then decide to throw regular HIIT training on top of that, which is a form of cardio that is very demanding, very high intensity, takes a lot of energy out of you, can cause a lot of hunger, can cause an increase in cravings, is going to take away from your ability to lift heavier in your workouts, it's just going to make life harder. Like, it is going to make it so much harder to stick to a diet, because you'll know if you've done a 10, 15, 20 minute HIIT workout and you've gone absolutely balls to the wall, you are flagged afterwards. You go home, all you want to do is eat and not move a muscle. I don't really want to be doing that when I'm dieting. I want to make life as easy as possible, and using something like a Stairmaster, like a bike, whatever it is, just at a nice steady pace to get my calories burnt is always going to be a better option, because it's less demanding. It's going to cause less of an increase, if any, in hunger. It's going to have less of an effect on energy. Yes, it takes a little bit longer, but you can always use that time for other things, messages to reply to, work calls, emails, all that kind of stuff you can get done whilst you're doing something like your cardio. It's not just wasted time, but that is definitely the way that I would approach it. I would avoid HIIT training because it's going to make life and dieting just so much harder. Now, we're going to head home, get some post-workout, have a shower before anything else, and then we'll be on to tip number 7. Back from the gym, showered, had some post-workout. So for me, at the minute, post-workout is 75 grams of, I think they're called chocolate hoops or something, they're basically Weetos, the little version of Weetos, with some protein powder and salt. So that's post-workout. Now, whilst I am walking up to the shop for point 8, I'm going to tell you point 7. Point 7 is organisation. Now, to be honest with you, it's probably more important than having it 7th, because if you don't have this down, sticking to a diet, being successful with fat loss is going to be very, very tough. You need to be organised, and by that I mean you need to have a routine and you need to be good with your time management. So all the things that you need to do on a diet, planning when you're going to make your food, or at least planning ahead to know what you're going to be eating. You don't have to meal prep on a diet. I haven't meal prepped once in the last 12 weeks and I've lost 11 kilos, but you definitely do still need to be knowing where your food's coming from and have a pretty routine daily structure. So That literally means pretty much eating the same things on a daily basis. And there might be some slight variance here and there, but the last thing you want to be doing is making things up as you go along, is trying to have different meals every day, because it's just going to require a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of expense with different ingredients. And 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to end up tracking it wrong, missing your targets, and it's not going to be overly useful for hitting your fat loss goals. So when it comes to organisation and routine, you do need to be in a very good position of eating pretty similar foods day to day. And that's typically what I'll do. I don't meal prep, I don't plan to the T what I'm having every day, but it's pretty much the same foods every day, maybe just slight variations, and it's always with my targets, so I know roughly what I'm eating. Now, the other side of that is time management. So you need to know when you're going to be going to the gym, you need to know when you're going to be getting your steps in, you need to know when you're going to be doing your cardio. All of that needs to be planned ahead of time. If you just wait until you've got some time to do it, or you feel like going, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to go. You're probably going to have less time than you need at the gym or to do cardio. And again, you're probably not going to hit your targets. So you need to be really organised with setting a daily routine. Get up at the same time, go to the gym at the same time, choose a time to prep your food if it's for a few days ahead, get your cardio in at the same time. So for me, a typical day, I get up at 5 o'clock, I walk the dog for an hour, I'll then have breakfast, I'll do 2 to 3 hours of work, if not a little bit more. Then I'll go to the gym for about an hour and a half. Then I'll do about 30 to 60 minutes of cardio, depending on how I'm feeling that day. Then I'll come back, I'll do another 3 or 4 hours of work. Then I'll walk the dog again, and then I'll come home, and that's pretty much my day done. And it is like Groundhog Day. It is the same thing every single time. But if you basically find yourself just trying to find time to do it when you're ready, or when you've got a spare minute, you'll find other things to fill your time, and you just won't hit those targets, and you'll feel like you're failing. So if you haven't done it already, you need to sit down, look at your week, plan when you're going to do things, talk to your other half about when that's going to be, have it both set in stone so that everyone knows what's going on, and then just crack on and get it done. So point 7, organisation. Okay, so tip number 8 is eating on the go. So many times when I'm working with clients, they'll tell me that they were planning to have a good day, the day was starting well, and then they got caught somewhere without any food, they got stuck in traffic, stuck at work, whatever it is, they didn't have any food, and they ended up either just snacking on loads of stuff or going for a takeaway, going to Greg's, something like that. We need to avoid that, and one of the easiest ways to do that is knowing what to pick when you go to the shop, whether that's a Tesco Express, whether that's a Sainsbury's, whether that's a Marks and Spencer's. There are literally tons of options that you can get when you're dieting that are low calorie, high protein, that are going to make life super easy. You can track them, and it's going to help you stay on track. So to prove it, I am going to have for my lunch today something from Tesco Express. I'm going to find something for lunch, we're going to come back, and I'm going to take you through what I've picked and the calories and protein of that, and just show you how easy it is to get something from those shops, not have to end up in Greg's or something like that, and stay on plan. I'm now currently sat in a park during the summer holidays with a camera. Probably not the brightest move on my part. The local drunk is just currently going past me on his BMX. You all right? Yep, yeah, he's gone. Right, so, been into Tesco. So, the first thing I got was a sweet chili chicken wrap looking thing. Your wrap is always going to be a better option. Generally, they're always going to be a little bit lower calories. Even though a pasta pot sounds like it's the healthy option, they're usually crammed full of calories. So generally avoid those. Go for something like a wrap. This has literally got 6.7 grams of fat, it's got 46 grams of carbs and 16.5 grams of protein. So not super high protein, but for 300 calories pretty much, that's not too bad to start with. I've then got a protein yogurt. So most places like this now will have some sort of protein yogurt, and this is 25 grams of protein and it's fat-free, which is pretty good going. So for this, because I've just been tracking it into my fitness pal so it fits into my day, 18 grams of carbs in this, you've got 1 gram of fat, and you've got 25 grams of protein. So already we're on 41 grams of protein for about 500 calories. I literally also bought a plain pack of chicken. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've done this. I've just gone to a shop and bought a plain pack of chicken, and sometimes a plain mixed salad bag as well, and literally just had these, because again, for this 170 grams of plain chicken, you've literally got 3 grams of carbs, you've got 1.2 grams of fat, and you've got 40 grams of protein. So it all works out to about 180 calories here for the chicken. Those 3 things there, you've got over 80 grams of protein, and you've got under 700 calories. You've got about 680 calories. And then just to top it off, I've got a sugar-free 7-Up. A fizzy drink like this will massively help fill you up. If you've only got 5 or 10 minutes to nip to the shop to get something on your lunch and you need something nice and quick, you've got a wrap, you've got a yogurt, and you've got some chicken that you can throw down you, it will get the job done. It's still pretty nice, and it means you're not having to prep food ahead of time all the time. And all of that, I think, was about £5, so pretty cheap as well. We're gonna put this back in my bag. I'm gonna get out the park before the police show up and think I'm doing something weird. And we're gonna head back home for the final 2 tips of the day. Ooh. Got everything that I've just bought from the shop. I'm gonna have that in just 1 second. Tip 9 is sleep. Now, sleep is commonly massively undervalued. Sleep is something that usually comes last for people. They'll stay up late watching TV. They do not have a proper sleep routine established. Now, if you're not sleeping properly, you're not gonna be recovering properly from your training. You're not gonna be recovering properly cognitively. You're gonna wake up on the morning feeling groggy, feeling tired, more reliant on caffeine, more reliant on sugar. You're gonna feel more run down, you're gonna feel more tired, your blood sugar is gonna be elevated. All the things we don't want when you're trying to drop body fat. So sleep has to be on point. I go to bed every night pretty much between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. And like I've already said, I'm up at 5 o'clock every morning, and that is my routine. Choose the amount of sleep that you know you function the best off, but then make sure that you're planning ahead of time what your sleep routine is gonna be. So you're going to bed at the same time every night, and you're getting up at the same time every single night as well. Even if you don't have to be at work, even if it's a weekend, get that routine nailed down so that you're getting the best possible sleep you can to recover, to have as much energy as possible. Because trust me, as you get deeper into your diet, as you get leaner and leaner and potentially food gets lower and lower, the worse your sleep is, the harder that's going to be, the less likely you are to stick to it, and the harder a result is going to be to get. So sleep has to be on point. Make sure that your room is as dark as it possibly can be. Make sure you're blocking out as much noise as you possibly can, or if there is noise that you can't block out and it is distracting, something like a white noise machine can be quite useful. Anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a night, consistent in a routine, so that you know exactly what time you're going to bed and getting up, and that you're doing everything you can to make sure that when you are asleep, you're getting the best possible sleep. That is tip 9, and that is sleep. And so finally, tip number 10 is get a coach. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a coach, right? Like, forget me. There's videos on how to choose the right coach. I'll drop the card for one of the podcast episodes where me and Jake literally spoke about how to find the right coach for you. But it is going to fast track your results. It's going to fast track your understanding. It's going to fast track you establishing a routine. It's going to fast track you building some muscle tissue. It is literally just going to fast track everything. You're going to be held accountable. Your fitness, your result is somebody else's priority, and they are literally putting time and expertise into mapping out the simplest road for you to get to that result, and then making sure that you walk down it. So all the tips that I've gone through today, a good coach will set you up with all of these and make it as easy as possible. I didn't see significant change with my own physique until I got a coach. And you might be sat feeling like, I kind of know what I'm doing in the gym. I've kind of got a good idea about nutrition. I don't need a coach. Trust me, those tend to be the people that benefit from them the most, because you just might not know what you don't know. And actually having someone else put that structure in place for you means that all you then have to do is follow the plan, and that is it. And that's it, pretty much. That is it. That is my 10 tips to make fat loss easy. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this useful. If you did find this useful and you want to see a bit more about what my training currently looks like, I will drop a link to what my full pull workouts currently look like. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and with that being said, I will see you in the next video.